winning a title, I think there's only 3 or 4 teams that can win a title. The Celtics, OKC, Denver. I would have said the Knicks, but I can't say them now. 3.
What about Cleveland?
You want to put, I don't think Boston, but they're going to get to a conference final.
Something wrong with you.
I don't want to hear it.
Something is wrong with you.
I don't want to hear
Oh, my Lord.
Cleveland,
have you been paying attention?
Yes, I have.
Have you been paying attention? You don't want to hear from me.
The last two times they played, who won? The last 2 times they played, who won going away? Which game?
Excuse
Boston
me.
did.
First of all, they were nail biters. That's number one. It was no going away. That was number one. And I think they split. And number 2, have you watched the Cleveland? Have you watched the Cleveland Cavaliers this year?
Yes, I have.
Yes or no?
Yes, yes, I have.
Cleveland, let me tell you something right now. You can make an argument right now. We won't give it to them because Boston's experience, their championship pedigree cannot be denied. But you can make a bona fide argument that the number 1 threat to the Boston Celtics in the entire NBA is the Cleveland Cavaliers. You can make a legitimate argument that the Cleveland Cavaliers could win the championship. When you look at their backcourt, when you look at their front line, when you look at their rebounding, their shot blocking, okay, their defensive prowess, the fact that they got a number 1 option. You pick up DeAndre Hunter before the trading deadline. This brother can hit threes. He's 6'8", can go out and defend on the wing. Mobley has elevated his level of play. You've raved about Kenny Atkinson on numerous occasions. You blamed KD and Kyrie for Kenny Atkinson in Brooklyn. You were raving about it, but now suddenly he goes to Cleveland. They got the best record in basketball, and suddenly we're going to engage in selective amnesia? What the hell is wrong with you, doggy? The Cleveland Cavaliers are the number 1 threat to the Boston Celtics in the entire NBA. They can beat anybody in the West, and they can beat Boston. Yes, they can. I'm telling you. Cleveland is no joke.
Last year against Boston, they got destroyed, and they barely beat Orlando in the opening round.
This ain't last year.
Let me just chime in here on this, doggy, because I was just in Cleveland, had a great chance to catch up with Donovan Mitchell. There is a entirely different air about that organization this year. They have tremendous confidence in one another. Donovan Mitchell is at a place in his career where he has understood that both he needs to be able to call his number and empower his guys. He has thoughtfully reflected on all that has allowed him to get to this point and evaluated and been supported by Johnny Bryant and Kenny Atkinson in terms of how to best move forward. And the leadership piece of that to go along with the basketball of it all, as far as that is concerned, they're in a different place. But then you talk about Evan Mobley. We were there for the press conference prior to the Knicks game on Friday, and I can't remember the reporter. Someone asked about the article going around suggesting that Evan Mobley would be one of the faces of the NBA in the next 5 years. You look at his skill set, you look at what Victor Wembanyama is doing. Of course, you want to see him get healthy and return to the league, return to action. You look at his jump this year, the confidence that he's starting to play with, Darius Garland getting healthy, like, it's a different vibe. And you and I just talked about this in the green room. As far as a team that can get you on both sides of the ball, they're right in the same tier with Boston. Now, as far as if you're going to make an argument about experience, that's one thing. But when you talk about personnel, style of play, abilities, and depth, you can't dismiss them at all.
Okay, now Cleveland lost to them last year in a very efficient 5 games. Did Porzingis play?
No.
He did not. So they went into Cleveland, they went into Boston last year after they barely got by Orlando, and they got drilled. Now, listen, I understand Jared Allen was out, but they got drilled. Now, Porzingis did not play. When Porzingis played the 1 game against Dallas in the final, he was the best player on the court. So if you add Porzingis to obviously Tatum and Brown and Holiday and what they have off that bench, and
you're missing it.
Derek White, they are not beating the Boston Celtics in a playoff series. No way.
Excuse me.
Go ahead.
Excuse me.
Yes.
We said the number 1 threat to the Boston Celtics. Now, when you get to the series, we can debate it back and forth. But the number 1 threat to the Boston Celtics is the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm telling you, see them against OKC. Cleveland against OKC was one of the best, if not the best of the year.
And when Cleveland
went back and forth, it was fantastic.
And when Cleveland went to OKC a week later, what was the final score?
Yeah. I get it. I get it. It happens.
It was like 40.
It happens in the course of the NBA. But personnel-wise, even with Porzingis, it wasn't good though. It wasn't good. Even with Porzingis being healthy, you got to watch how versatile Evan Mobley has become as a defender. Like on the perimeter versus a guy his size. you cannot dismiss Cleveland. That would be ill-advised.
You're in rare form today.
Handled it tremendously, says LeBron. Jay, Will, and Windy up with us. Windman, you were there last night. How do you think Luka handled it?
Reasonably well. The scene before the game when he came out, everybody knew he was coming. They put on the Slovenian music, which is what they do when he warms up. They started in Dallas. Nico Harrison sitting there in an electric blue suit. Both of them a few feet apart from each other. Neither of them making eye contact. You don't normally see that before a game in February. There was a lot of action. For the game itself, the Mavericks made a decision, Greeny. They were not letting Luka go off in this game with scoring. They double-teamed him aggressively right from the start. That was fine. Luka started passing the ball. He had 12 assists. He didn't shoot the ball really well, but he was able to save LeBron's energy for the fourth quarter. LeBron had a big fourth quarter. They took advantage of the Mavericks' weak interior and ended up winning this game. It was really not in a much more than an average game. I look forward in April when he goes back to Dallas, when he's feeling his legs up under him a little bit more. When Dallas is healthier, we see a more representative game between these two teams.
Jay, Will, you and I have a lot of things in common, and one of them is we both love the petty. I live for the petty. And I love the Mavericks weren't going to let Luka go off. He's looking over at the bench. I respect to Nico Harrison for sitting right out there and basically saying, hey, if you have something to say, I'm sitting right here and say it to me. The game was what it was. The scene was pretty spectacular, Jay, Will.
Well, Greeny, Luka had something to say. I mean, that was 19, 15, and 12, right, on a poor shooting performance. But just show me that video again, just of Luka making that three, to this perceived stare to the Dallas Mavericks bench, because there is a photo that's out there that I'm telling you, he's not staring at the bench. He's staring at Nico Harrison. It feels like this is so personal. It feels like that was a statement. Nico Harrison wearing that electric blue suit, which feels like it represents the Dallas Mavericks front office. Right, like this is something that's so meaningful to Luka, because in that moment that felt like a mic drop. It felt like, hey, look, you let go of me. This isn't about Kyrie. This isn't about all my other teammates. This is how I feel about you and the front office. And nobody's moving on from this game like LeBron James says. Like, we're moving into this game. You know how LeBron was talking about don't fit in, fit out? We're moving into more of this game coming up. And April 9th is going to be another testimony to how this game is going to be personal for Luka.
April 9th is when they will go back to Dallas, or the Lakers will go to Dallas, I should say, and we're expecting the fireworks there. I don't mean fisticuffs fireworks. I mean, you know, sort of a lot more of this emotion.
Energized.
And maybe a better night for Luka. I got to be honest with you. I predicted on the show yesterday he would go off offensively, and everyone told me, no, they're not going to let him score, and I get it that the Mavericks didn't let him score. I wanted to see a little I can't put my finger on what it is that I wanted to see that we didn't see last night from Luka. I wanted to see him handle this. I guess there was a little piece of the immaturity. Jay, Will, go ahead. You look like you're questioning what I'm saying.
He had a triple-double. We're minimizing the triple-double in 19, 15.
Luka Doncic wakes up with a triple-double. Luka Doncic gets a triple-double in every game that he plays. I wanted to see Luka score 40 last night. Go ahead, Jay.
19, 15, and 12 is one hell of a stat line. I'm just trying to tell you. I know he didn't shoot the ball well.
He wanted to have a good game. He wanted to score 42.
I did.
Greeny, he wanted to score 42. That's why he was so excited coming out. He scored 8 points right out of the gate, and the Mavericks just didn't let him do it. This is a guy who averaged 35 points a game last year. He's the third highest scoring player in the history of the NBA. He had 19 points. He did not have a bad game, but this is not what he wanted.
I think there's a middle ground.
Wendy,
Go, Jay.
Go ahead. Sorry, Monica.
All right, Monica, go.
I think there's a middle ground for all of these sort of things. Yes, I know what you mean, Greeny, and I think practically when you look at it, this is a stat line that any NBA player will be like, oh, that was a good game. I do think there's, Jay, a little bit of room for the conversation around efficiency because of what we're accustomed to seeing from Luka. But I also think that, like, this is just round one, to Wendy's point. We got more coming in April, and Luka is still, to me, getting his legs under him, not just with the Lakers, but on the season. He missed a big chunk of the season last year, and he's not typically, like, I don't want to use I don't like the motor thing that has come out of Dallas, but it's not going to be an athletic display. So if he's not having an efficient night, you're going to get a triple-double, and that's still very good, but the numbers are not as gaudy in terms of scoring.
He made a bunch of plays in this game. He was an excellent factor in this